Hey guys, I want to tell you about one of my favorite new companies, and that is Rep Provisions. So I met these guys at PaleoFX last year where they were just blowing everyone away with their beef sticks and pecan nut butter combo packs that are outrageously delicious. But as I talked to them, I was even more blown away because I found out what they were about. They are a regenerative agriculture company committed to the future of the planet by the proper management of cattle. So they are regenerating America's grasslands with the management of their cattle. Look into it. It's amazing. They have everything from, of course, high quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef to Mongolisa pork, which is like the Wagyu of pork, to bone broth popsicles, pecan nut butters, like I said, and so many amazing things. Go support them and support the future of our planet. And they're giving you 15% off for being a Kick-Ass Life podcast listener. So use coupon code KICKASSLIFE and get 15% off at repprovisions.com.
Hey everyone, we're going to take a minute here at the top of the show to chat with you about some of our sponsors who are offering incredible discounts for you and your family. We also only align ourselves with companies that we know are providing safe and healthy products, and also products that we actually consume on a regular, if not sometimes daily basis. And one of those companies is Primal Kitchen. Primal Kitchen products are incredible because they are dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free with no refined sugar. And they are delicious. So visit primalkitchen.com to check out the vast array of products available and use code KICKASSLIFE for 10% off.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we're talking about the 5 love languages. This was a requested topic, and this comes from a book by Dr. Gary Chapman. It's a classic. Probably most of you are familiar with the love languages, but if you're not, we'll go ahead and introduce them. And just thought it'd be a great topic to dig into today, especially in regards to relationships. So the basic premise of the book, if you haven't read it, is that everybody speaks and receives love in their own kind of language. So what feels like love to one person may not feel like love at all to another, and vice versa. And it's really important to know that in relationships, because you can be missing the mark. And what we tend to do is speak our love language thinking that everybody else speaks the same love language as us when they may not. So I'm going to start with my lowest love language, and I get
wait before you do that.
Yeah.
I just want to
identify them.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, physical touch, receiving gifts, quality time, and acts of service. Okay. So my lowest, I'll start with my lowest. This is receiving gifts. So to me, gifts do not feel like love at all. Like it doesn't equal. It's like, oh, thank you so much. I was so nice of you, but it doesn't really do much for the relationship. It is the lowest thing. And as a result, also, I'm not a big gift person. Like in the moment when it makes sense and I'm feeling generous, like I love to do that, but I'm not like somebody who just sits there and is like, let me plan out some awesome gift for somebody, because it just to me feels like this arbitrary other thing. It doesn't feel like love. When I was married before, my mother-in-law at the time, definitely her love language. I mean, she like spends her entire existence like thinking of gifts all year long for all the kids and grandkids and extended family, and has them all planned out and has a whole closet full of them. And she, you go over there and she'll pull them out and she'll be like, oh, look what I got so and so. They're gonna love this. You know what I mean? And that's like, I'm like, oh, and so it took me a minute to get that. And I'm like, so you take somebody like that and you don't put very much thought or effort into the gift that you give them, they are going to feel like you don't love them. They're like, because it's a love language for them. So it's really important to understand that kind of thing. That's a really physical example. All right, Elle, what about you? What tips you off right out of the gate on love languages as being something that you found really important?
Well, by the way, you can go to 5lovelanguages.com and take the free test and see what your love languages are in order. So you can see it's really clear. I've taken it a couple times. It keeps coming up the same way. My least one is also gifts. The second to last would be acts of service. My first love language is quality time, and it's kind of equal with touch and words. So here's the interesting. I've had issues with this, which is why I think this is really important when couples get together. If it's getting serious, just have them take the test. It's free, and just see, and maybe you can have a conversation, or at least because, for example, I was with someone in a serious relationship and I found out about the love languages afterwards, and I was like, aha, a light bulb went off, because they weren't acts of service people. They showed that they loved. So for example, like we were very close and his kids and stuff. I had a key to his house. I'd go there before he'd get home. Like it was all open and cool. And he knew I loved coffee and loved drinking coffee every morning. And he wasn't a coffee drinker. And I like opened the freezer and I see that he had bought like 5 bags of my favorite coffee.
Right.
I mean, right. And that's lovely. They're like, oh my gosh, he is show like and I, without me asking, he just was like, she's going to be over. I'm going to get her. That is so thoughtful. Can't even, I mean, right? That's lovely.
Right.
He's really showing, but he couldn't speak. But I couldn't either at the time. I really wanted to desperately because I am a words person, but he couldn't. So he could show me he loved me, but he couldn't like tell me. And he I actually think I nailed his love language in a lot of ways because I think his was also acts of service. And I kind of showed up that way in a lot of ways because we had a lot of quality time and touch. So I think we both like that. But, I was also naturally like acts of service. I think I am that way anyway. I seem like a helpful person. So if like my guy is out all day and I see that the kids left their bathroom a mess, like I have some time, let me get a paper towel and like clean out. Like I also show love that way.
Right.
But again, it would have been better had we just talked in the beginning about like what was important to us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And on this note, we'll get into each of the love languages. But on this note, I had a conversation with someone a year ago, and I think it's a conversation every couple should have when you guys are getting serious, which is, hey, how do you feel about holidays? How do you like, let's talk about holidays and birthdays and how you like to spend them. Because I actually had this conversation with someone and they were like, oh my God, I love my birthday. My birthday is like, I don't give a shit about my birthday, guys. I almost never post it. Don't want people to wish me happy. Don't give a shit. This guy was like,
we call them birthday divas. That's
important to know. That's important to know so that when you're dating this guy, I didn't date him, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Or also too, like, for example, and this is why, because people then end up getting disappointed and then you're like, well, they don't love me. They don't know how to love you. We've talked about this before.
Yep.
You have to tell people how. So I love that one because Valentine's Day, Christmas, and all this bullshit, people fight. It ruins relationships. People get into stuff around these things, all because they just didn't establish before how they like to spend them.
Yep.
How
absolutely
important they are to them. For example, I would be mortified if a guy was like, I want to take you out to dinner on Valentine's Day. I'd be like, oh my God, no, worst thing for me. Like,
so it feels so cliche to me. I struggle really hard. I'm like, please don't do anything. I
can't,
like,
but
really.
Like order dinner out or be at home or the day before or the day after, but not on Valentine's Day with all the couples. I can't. It's part of me. Like, I don't like familiarity with strangers. I don't like celebrating with masses, things that are personal. So, but so like, how does that guy know that? And then what, you're like sitting there bummed at the dinner table because they didn't know, because they don't fucking know. You got to tell them. So again, I think that's why it's important to figure out what your love languages are and then look at your relationships and go, how was I giving? How was I receiving? And what were they like? Go back to some ex-boyfriends and go, what do I think their love languages are? So words of affirmation, let's just go start with that one. It's a verbal acknowledgments, right? It's affection. It can be affection, but it's including like, I love yous, compliments, genuine ones, just verbal encouragement, maybe frequent digital communication, a little like, hey, just thinking about you. And those kind of things mean a lot to someone like me.
And I will add, because this is one of my top ones, it also is your micro reactions to things. Like you're like something happens, something stressful. How do you respond to that? What is your energy that you bring? What are the words that you choose? To me, that's huge, right? So if something frustrating happens and you're like, mother effer, freaking blah, like, I'm like, but if it's like, hey, you know what? It's all good. Like, and there's like tenderness and kindness and like patience. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love you. You know what I mean? Like, so the micro reactions are big part of words of affirmation, and also like active listening. So that to me, that's part of it, is like letting me know that you heard what I just said, that you're like in it with me, that's part of words of affirmation as well to me.
Yeah. What else would be?
Let's go into quality time for a second, and then we'll dig a little deeper on all of them. But just to kind of
quality time, I think that's quality time is even, I've seen it with friends. So I have one friend who, not anymore, I think she kind of learned it, was obsessively on her phone all the time while you were like talking with her. Dude, Dude, and like didn't need to be. It's one thing when you start a hike and you go, look, man, I'm sorry, I'm waiting on like 3 calls. I'm gonna have to take them. Okay, you
Right.
just preface the shit. But just like checking like you don't need to. And I would get so like upset because it was like, I'm right here. I'm in the middle
Right.
of the store. You just pulled out your phone. So I'm a quality time person regardless. And that usually is like undivided attention, right? No phones, no bullshit, no distractive. But
Right.
I think people who love quality time, right? We feel most adored, when your partner like actively wants to really spend time with you and hang out.
Yeah, and I'd say for kids, like, I think this is all of their love language.
Yes, this is
Like,
their love language. Yeah.
that is the biggest gift is I just got my kids back from their dad last night, and I just literally, like, the best thing in the world I can do is nothing is planned. We're just sitting there. Like, I just, like,
You're just
laid on my
available for them.
I'm just available. I'm just with them. They're like, we're rolling all over my bed and they're like, like wrestling and like, there's like nothing happening, but we're just there, and they just like stayed around me all night. Like we just didn't do anything, but that was so bonding. So like kids, I think kids are
Love
quality
it.
time all the way and it's funny because we get into gifts and acts of service a lot, I think, as parents, as like, they're going to think this is love. I'm going to take them to this activity and this activity. I'm going to pay for this and this. I'm going to put them in this sport. I'm going to buy them these clothes. I don't even think they really appreciate it. And then what happens? And you get in some like you're expecting them to appreciate all these things I do for you. Well, guess what? It's not their love language. Like they kind of expect you to do things for them because they're your parent, you're their parent, and then acts of service as well. It's like, I planned this big birthday party for you. Like, be grateful for me to see that means I love you. And they kind of do. But the biggest
The
thing
kid's
is
like, I'd rather have you just hang out in my room 30 minutes before I go to bed and just sit with me."
exactly. Just pay attention to me. Just like be here all the way with me instead of running around the party, like ignoring me because you're doing this big service thing for me. Like it's just presence. It's just quality time. I think I just got to say for kids is like freaking everything. So
Yeah.
it's like, it relieved so much pressure from me as a parent when I finally realized that. It was like, dude, Tara, you don't have to plan all these things and spend all this money and like you don't even have to prepare ahead of time. Just sit there.
Well, by the way, I've talked with, I have a lot of friends who grew up extremely wealthy, right? Where their parents maybe weren't there, but they had all the things. They would have rather traded it
Yeah.
for their parents. There's no adult that grows up and isn't like, yeah, but I wish they were around more. That is usually what they, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, great for kids because that's universal. Gosh, it would be weird to meet someone and be like in a love relationship and have them hate quality time. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be very, like, you'd have to be super two independent people. But also too, I think like, it's also quality time for me is not just time chilling. It's really where you can like kind of be alone and 2 people reading and it's all good. Like you're just chill, hanging out with each other in the same space or doing like, I loved it. One of my ex-boyfriends like we went hiking all the time. Then we'd cook. I love that. I love just quality time, hanging out. And yeah, that's one of my biggest ones.
I think, what was interesting in preparing for this episode, like I thought physical touch, and I want to hit on physical touch for a second, but I thought physical touch and quality time were my biggest two. But because I thought when I hear words of affirmation, I think that means someone needs to tell me I'm pretty and that they love me. And I'm like, lip service is what I thought of. But as I really dug more into words of affirmation, it's more than that. It's communication. It's like speaking from the heart. And I realized that is actually physical touch is definitely my number one, which I'll get into a second. But words of affirmation, like the communication being true and transparent and real and depth, like that is almost, it is a little higher for me than quality time. Of course, quality
intimacy.
It's intimacy. It's true intimacy. It's like connectedness, and quality time is obviously like it's foundational. Of course that has to happen, but I don't need that as much. Like I've noticed in my friendships, some of my friends, we might not see each other for like 2 months, but when we are together, we are so connected, that it's like, I don't skip a beat. And so I realized like, I don't need a ton of time, and sometimes I think that neediness coming from other people like stresses me out in relationships, like friendships, or it's like, you need to be here, you need to be like that pressure. Because time is like my most valuable commodity as a single mom of 4 kids building my own business. Like if I feel a lot of pressure for quality time, I'm like, okay. But when I'm with them, yes. Like if somebody's, driving in the car, I'm not going to be on my phone while they drive me around like they're my freaking Uber driver, right? Or I hope I don't do that. I try to be mindful always of like being present.
Yeah.
But I want to hit on physical touch, and uh
Such a big one for me.
physical touch is definitely my number one. And this is why. Because you can't fake it. And I'm not just talking about sex.
Yes.
I'm not talking about like kissing and sex. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about the energy, like even the desire to caress someone's back, or to like
Yes.
mid conversation just give them a kiss because you just like are adoring them, or to just like want to snuggle up to them when you sit next to them, or brush their forearm with your fingers. Like, to me, that says it's like it's not muddled. It's you can't fake it. It's
You can't
all it's
fake it,
pure
because if someone were
communication.
trying to fake it and trying to be affectionate with you in a physical way, and they really weren't, they were doing it just to do it, you feel it. It's like one of
Mhm.
those things, like
And
it's natural or it isn't, and it's awkward for those people, so it's not very smooth.
right. And I'm an energy person, right? Like energy all the way. And
Yeah,
so to me, that's true energy. So if somebody's like never wanting to touch me
I can't.
ever,
I can't.
like that says everything to me. Like
Or if
if
they're
they're like,
just not touchy feely, like honestly, I do need someone that is, and prefer someone who is physically affectionate, who will reach over to hold the hand, who will, because also
yeah,
I'm that way. I am so that way. And I remember years ago dating someone who, it kind of felt like they were annoyed by it a little bit, like it wasn't their thing. And
I
I was like,
know.
oh, this is such a fucking mismatch, man, because like
Yeah.
this is who I am. It's how I
Right. And yeah, I guess I'm trying not to go judgmental mode right now, because I'm like, what is it about you? What is it about you that
why
doesn't
don't
like
you like
physical
it? Yeah.
touch? Are you afraid of intimacy, or are you like, I don't know, but I'm like, okay, I'm not going to judge. Like, but I definitely say like for me, I definitely
It's just
need
not your
somebody
people.
who matches on that vibe for sure. Because to me, it's true, pure communication that hasn't been muddled by, mm, like trying to come up with the right words or the right kind of service or the right kind of gift. It's just like pure in its essence. So I
Yeah.
love physical touch for sure is, to me, the purest form of communication. Yeah, let's go a little deeper. So
Okay, so wait, we didn't really, did we get into, did we go through all of them? Do we access
yeah,
service, gifts? Okay.
we touched on them lightly. So I wanted to hit on like when we don't appreciate someone else's form of love language because it's not ours. Okay. So like here's the thing. Like when you're first starting to build a relationship with someone, they're going to give you love in their love language. So they will tip you off. First of all, that's another thing, is like, if you want to know somebody's love language, just look at what they do and what they value, right? So if they're constantly like doing little servicey things for you, it's pretty clear that that's their love language. And I have been burned on this because acts of service is not my love language. It actually used to be when I was like a stay-at-home mom. Like, it's like, look what I did for you guys. I got this
Sure.
whole house clean and dinner on the table and all your laundry's done because I love you, Um, I don't know why it's not anymore. It's not, but in relationships, I have seen that I like can be a bit of an asshole, because when those things happen, I'm kind of awkward. I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much. That was like so nice of you to do that." Like, but what what I need to realize is that that then means that's a tip off to me that in order for them to feel loved, I am going to have to do some acts of service, even if that doesn't feel necessarily like love to me. Just watch what happens when you do some service. You're going to be like, I am the luckiest person in the whole wide world. Now, vice versa. If you're an acts of service person and you keep doing these acts of service and the person's like, wow, thank you. That was super nice of you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And they're not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. Like, also know that you're not really speaking their love language. You're speaking yours at them, right?
And also,
So,
I think there can be some differences in the way someone receives it and what their love language is on receiving, and then what they might be more inclined to be doing, you know?
Generally, I feel like we do our love language, right?
Yeah, we act mostly within those realms. Yeah.
Right. And so like I guess the entire premise of his work, of this book, is to basically learn to get outside of yourself and speak someone else's love language. So for example, like with my ex-mother-in-law, you better believe I started thinking about gifts
a year prior to Christmas.
Right. I'm like, okay, I got to put some work into this. Like, even though it feels foreign to me, it means a freaking lot to her. So like, this has got to be meaningful, or man, like, how about physical touch? What if you're mismatched on that? Gosh, like, if your person is always like cuddling on you and you're like batting them off like they're a bug, you like, either it's not going to work out, or you're going to have to change. You're going to have to like start to look at that in yourself. I've had guys that I've dated tell me that like their ex-wives like didn't like them to like be affectionate and touch them or whatever. And in my opinion, I'm like, well, there's obviously something deeper rooted there.
Sure.
But like, like learning to allow that armor to come off. Like, if you really want to be in a relationship with someone, and let's say like they like to come and like come up from behind you and cuddle you, and you hate that. Well, if like, I feel like if that's something they keep doing, like maybe recognize, instead of being like, I need you to F off, I told you I hate it when you do that. Like maybe you could also look inside yourself and be like, dude, that is how they express love. So maybe I can like let my armor down and sink into it a little bit.
Times a day, you can't walk by, put some hands on your shoulders. It's just not that fucking hard, guys. It's really, how hard is it if someone's love language is a word of affirmation to send off a goddamn text that says like, just thinking about how awesome you are. Oh my God. It's like the easiest thing. Yeah.
Because when you love someone, you do want to jump into like what they receive is like, you're like, they love it when I do that. They love this. This makes them feel so loved. So like the desire
I hate
should
baseball,
be there.
but they do. I'm going to go to one game with them a year. Come on.
It's right.
Yeah,
exactly. Have you had any dating disasters, Elle, from not understanding somebody else's love language?
Well, been mismatched with someone who like didn't really like to kiss a lot or wasn't affectionate and that kind of thing. And
have you ended a relationship because of physical touch not being where you want it to be? Me too.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I'm too touchy-feely for that. So I can sense if someone's like, you can sense that off-puttingness, but also it's something that melts me. Like subtle physical, you know what I mean? Like, means so much to me. If I'm in the car and the guy just reaches over and holds my hand, I'm like,
totally.
Oh I want to fucking die. Like, love it. Oh, you know what? Let's talk about some of the actions with this. So like words of affirmation. So actions would be sending an unexpected note, send a text.
This would be for words of affirmation.
Say genuinely encourage and often. And it doesn't need to be, again, too, I think, like you said, a lot of people think this is complimentary based. One of the things I find in this world is like in dating, guys who are just overly it can be uncomfortable after a while. It's not that I can't accept a compliment, but you're just like shooting all of these things at me, and some of them are maybe physical, and you're like, that's not, so they're not necessarily physical because those are superficial. It's not to say that we wouldn't like some guy to go, oh my gosh, Terry, you look beautiful this evening in that dress. But I think for me, the words of affirmation are more about basically like you can find something about who you're with, because you wouldn't be with them, that you truly admire about them, and point it out occasionally. If they're saying something and they're really smart and you admire how smart they are, that's the time to be like, you know what? You're so smart. Like, that's one thing I really admire about you, versus you're so handsome, you're so pretty, and then you're going back with superficial words of affirmation. And I think we're talking about deeper ones. So
yeah, another thing on that note is like words of affirmation is interesting to me, because although I say I value it, like I don't really like it when it's just like tons of like compliments. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Base.
Like it's just kind of like to me, if it feels like, do you think I need that? Like, do you think that I don't? It sounds so bad, but it's like,
you
think that I don't?
You're almost
like,
projecting. You're like, what do you think about me that you think I need to hear this all the time? Like,
I'm like, I know I'm beautiful, and I know, but thank you. I mean, thank you. But if it's like a lot, it's kind of like,
It's annoying.
I'm not insecure. Like I don't like that's kind of my vibe or whatever. And then it makes me wonder, I'm like, wait, do you need to be validated all the time? Like, is that why you're doing it to me? Like, okay, I guess I need to validate you, you know?
And
So
I think it's just something a lot of guys feel like, oh, if you just do that, you're going to impress women, just compliment them. But so we're not just
yeah.
talking about baseless compliments here. We're
When you're,
talking about
when a woman is confident and she already can own that about herself, not with arrogance, but just like, yeah,
Yeah.
like, I know, like, it feels a little bit like, manipulative almost.
Yes, thank you. And
It's
petty and manipulative and a little bit.
yeah, it's like, okay, thank you. Like are you doing that so I'll like you? Like I already
It's
know that.
suspicious when there's too
Yeah,
many of
it's
those.
kind of
Yeah.
like the energy's a little weird. It's sometimes, of course, like every woman's like wants to hear
Yes.
like her man like be like, oh my God, goddamn, you're beautiful, or you're
Right.
so
You're
kind.
smoking.
That was so freaking kind of you, or something like that. That's everyone likes that. But when it's over the top, it's kind of suspicious for sure. But at the same time, words of affirmation, to me, the reason I say words is just I love clear communication.
Yes, I think we're both so similar that way. And especially through what you've been through in the past, it's like, please just let's have it all on the fucking table and
Let
be
me know where you're
transparent,
at.
honest, and clear. And when you do that, that is vulnerability, man. That's the
Right.
whole point, which is the connector of the intimacy for these things. And by the way, but I talk about this. I failed. Words of affirmation were my thing, and I didn't do it to the person. They didn't do it to me, and I kind of blamed them in the end for being a robot and unemotionally available, and I wasn't, because I still had shame about my disability, and that's part of the story. Is that so? That was the problem. Is that I am such a words of affirmation person in so many ways, and I was stifling myself. I wasn't. So how did I expect to get it in return? So also too, are you stifled? Like, do you want, that's a red flag. If you feel like you want to do something, you want to say, I love you, and you feel like you can't, for some reason, that might be something to look at. Cause I was there. I was there, and it was yucky feeling, and it was a perfectly nice, wonderful person. There was nothing about them that was at all. It's just, it was my shit. For quality time, and this is what I really love. So if you want to ensure quality time, that's her love language. Undivided attention, including, I love this. My ex-boyfriend from many years ago was great at quality time, and it would be like phone. I never saw him look at the fucking phone on the week. Like, never. Like, it would have to be an emergency or something. He just wasn't on it. That is the one thing you can really do if you're around someone, is just actually like to be like, oh, hold on, let me turn this shit on, and show them that you are like, I am in this with you right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like
as an action is what I mean.
Another action for quality time is like planning special things, like planning dates, planning little vacations, planning even just
weekend getaways or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even just planning like little, a special movie night where you get like cheeses and meats and fine chocolates or whatever, like just all like little special things or actions, like people who love quality time. It's like, I just showing you that I want to be all in on this moment with you, like all the way, and that it's going to be like epic, So I think that's a great action.
And it doesn't even have to be like super romantic like that. Like one gesture that someone made, I thought was really fun years ago, is they were like, hey, I got, if you're not down, that's cool. I'll take one of the kids, but I got us like 2 tickets to go to like an archery range and like shoot, like they have like animals, and like they have like fake things around that, and I was like, and first of all, I haven't played, I actually am an archer. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I've been like doing archery since I was little, and I haven't done it in such a long time. And I was like, oh my God, that's so fun. It was such great quality time. The drive there, it's just us. We're kind of hanging out. So it can be a fun activity too. It doesn't need to be romantic, but again, something planned like that, where it's just the two of you doing something, and
I dated a guy once that was like really, really mindful of like planning things that he knew I would like and I would find interesting. And I knew quality time was definitely like one of maybe his top love language, so that's how he did it. But I learned from him. I'm like, oh, okay. Like he really not only, it's fun for him too, but he put us a lot of thought into like, this is going to be an awesome experience that both of us really like these things, doing these things together, so just kind of being mindful of like, if your person's a quality time person, which I'd say like most people are, I'd say that's probably like top 2 for like most people. Like thinking about, really learned from thinking about like, what would they just think is epic is like a cool way to be thinking constantly, like in a relationship and with friends too. Right.
Yeah.
Like quality time. Like I have certain friends that like to do certain things. And I'm like, dude, she would love to do that with me. You know what I mean? So then you know that the time is going to be something that you just bond closer to because you're both doing something that you love, right?
Right.
All
What
right.
about acts of service?
Sure. Yeah, actions.
So I guess anything I can help you with, right?
Yeah.
Or jumping in and be like, hey, I'll help. Oh, someone's doing dishes, you jump in, ask if you can help, or do it proactively. Like I said, I would just do it because I'd be at my boyfriend's house and I'd see that the kids might left their whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, I'm here. I have the time. Like, because I'm a helpful kind, whatever. And not just because that was probably his love language, but because I felt it too. And I am that kind of person. So again, going out of your way, being proactive, like what can be done around here or what can be done and how can I do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what's interesting is like acts of service isn't really my thing. And I've had experiences in which someone's doing acts of service for me and I'm like
Okay.
I'm like, what? Wait, it's almost like, wait,
Look, I didn't ask you.
are you judging me that you think I need that done or like, wait, what? Like it's a little, sometimes it's like the energy can be received a little weird. So like,
And a
or
lot of guys are like that because they're solution oriented. So like I had a guy come over one time and he saw like my 2 surfboards on the ground. He's like, oh, I could totally build you a thing to hang. And I was
you're like, were you judging me because my surfboards were on the ground? Like
no,
you're
so I was like, I don't fucking care.
right. Yeah. I would say if acts of service is one of your main love languages and you find yourself doing this, like, don't be careful not to set yourself up for disappointment because you may think that somebody wants you to do something for them that they don't even really like. They don't even like really want it. And so it can be like awkward because it's like, oh, you made me breakfast in bed. Like I
don't eat breakfast.
I don't like I don't eat breakfast and I don't like eating in my bed. And now I have to eat this thing because you like made it for me when it would have been like so much more awesome if we could just go like to the gym right now and like go have fun and do that together. Like, so like be mindful because then like, the energy can get weird. If you're an acts of service person, like just don't get, it's like, to me, sometimes acts of service can feel very like needy. It's like, I did this thing for you, like, da, 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 and you're like, especially if you didn't really want it, it's like, thank you so much. It's just, so if you're an acts of service person, all I'm saying is like, don't be attached to an outcome that the person is going to just be like, wow, and feel so loved because like, you may think that that's love, but they may not. So that's all I'm saying. I've been in many instances of acts of service where it's like
a guy could buy me a $14,000 like Louis Vuitton bag.
Right. And you don't want one.
I would be like, yeah, you don't know me.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Where to a lot of women, particularly in this fucking town I'm living in, would be like, oh my God, like they would love that. I would be a little bit like, ooh, that's a weird sign that you have no idea who I am. That was just a thing you did. So again, I think like knowing your own and knowing that others are different and to not project yours onto other people, to realize that we have, it's a give and take. And again, I think there are compatible love languages. You've just got to see if that's something for you. But again, things like you can both take the test for free. It's 2 seconds. Then you can have that conversation. And part of that conversation about holidays and gifts, it's like, what kind of gifts you like? When I had this conversation with a guy, I was like, I would rather get experiences than things.
Yes.
So
same here.
For me, I would rather a guy be like, let's go away for the weekend or the day at the winery in Napa Valley or whatever the hell, than to give me like a gift or anything like that. So, or like a day at the spa, get me a massage. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. I would love that. Cause then I'm like, I'm feeling pampered by my guy. That's just me. Those are the kind of gifts or things I would want to receive if I got gifts.
Right.
So I was honest with that guy. We just had this talk and it was great. And they were like, I hate gifts, don't care, don't celebrate. Okay, now I know. But then there's that one guy who's like, my birthday is the ultimate. You're like, oh shit. Then whoever's dating that guy better, like with your mother-in-law, like just, you better prepare. You
Better
better have
bring
this
it.
brand. You got to call all his friends. You're gonna have to start the party. Like you're gonna need help to create this party for this guy every year for his birthday. But he may
Yep.
not care about the other stuff. So I just think like, here's the thing: when these
Communication.
topics are open, don't do them around the holidays. Don't do them near a birthday. Don't do them a week before Valentine's Day. Get the shit over with when you meet and things start to get serious. It's just a fun conversation then. Otherwise, it's an awkward conversation after the fact. It's fucking awkward because
Yep.
then you don't get the gift. Now you're disappointed
Totally.
or whatever it is.
I've been there, man. It sucks. It's the worst
I
feeling
got a
ever.
gift.
It's like,
I
I'm
got a
so
gift
sorry.
twice from guys that weren't a gift for me. They were a gift for them.
That's the worst.
Some guy was a big scuba guy. He gave me a bunch of scuba. Knew he didn't want to fucking scuba. Gave me a bunch of scuba equipment so that, and scuba lessons, like, so that I could go with him to do a thing I don't want to fucking do. Like, I'm
Right.
glad I got a good skin suit out of it, but shit, I mean, what am I use that for? Just a photo op. And then what was another one? Another one was like someone was just like, oh, here's tickets to join me at this thing with my kids and everything. And it was like for Christmas. And I remember being like, oh, and I was like kind of bummed. And then again, felt not loved and felt like that was a bad gift. And how could you think that that was appropriate? And again, all that judgment and all that junky, yucky stuff happening when it could have been cleared up had we just had the fucking conversation when we met.
Right. Totally. You're hitting on such a key thing, and that is communicating about these things. Communicating ahead of time is so huge. Okay, I
Oh,
want to hit
gifts.
on what's that?
We didn't get into gifts, did we?
Actions, nope, gifts and physical touch still. So let's jump into gifts. So what are some things if receiving gifts that you think is a good action for people to take if that's the person's love language?
I guess a gift could be a gesture too.
I'd say like small thing, because it's like you can only do so many big gifts. So like I feel like for people who are gift givers, like little teeny, like random unexpected gifts, like that are just
Yes.
small. Like I loved this
Gift
book
lovers
and I
have
thought of you, so I ordered it on Amazon and sent it to you. Is like, I've had a few gift people in my life, and like so it's the little things, or like I
I got a
went
great
to
example. Tanya, my friend, your friend Tanya Dyer, she's one of my good friends and she's kind of a gifty. And she got me a fucking great gift. It's so when you have curly hair and you're like letting it dry, you kind of want to mist it. It keeps up the curls if you can have a mister. So you can spend a bunch of money and buy Evian spray, which will run you broke at some point. Or you can get like these mister bottles that are really kind of, you just can't pick them up at the store. They're not spray bottles, they are misters. And
uh-huh.
she just knew my hair, everything else. And like such a like, that's so specific. Like that's the kind of gift
Yeah.
for me. I'm like, yeah. Like, and it's so right
Yeah.
on point and so thoughtful, but it probably cost her $5. It was just,
Right.
sometimes those things are more
Yep.
meaningful to people. But I think you do have to know, because I do know a couple and their love language together is gifts, and they give each other expensive ass shit all the time. Like this is their jam. I would never
Right.
survive in that relationship just because I'm not that person. But they are, and that's their thing. And so
Well, I
maybe
think
to
because
your girl, it is like she only wants jewelry, and okay, well then good to know.
yeah, I think for gift givers, what I sense in them is that it's this like, I was thinking about you. Like I care
Yeah.
enough about you to even think about you during my busy life. So like even little things I went to Starbucks and I got you a coffee too on my
Yes.
way here because I thought about you and I know you like the cold brew with heavy cream and like the
And it's
for a
paying
gift.
attention, right? They're
Yeah.
listening. So I think that's how they're also receiving the love too, because they're like, oh, not only you were thinking of me, but if it's specific to me, then you've listened,
Right.
you've heard me, you're paying attention.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. So I'd say like little in between gifts like that are huge for the gift giving crowd.
Yeah, because
And
if
then
you're a gift, like if your language is gift, it's not just for these holidays and birthdays. You better be doling out little ones like what you're talking about. That is exactly
exactly.
how that person wants to be loved.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're exactly right. Bullshit gifts. Like it's like, I got you this pearl bracelet and they're like, I don't even like pearls. That's almost like, I don't love you to a gift giver person. Cause it's like, I like am just trying to cover the bases and I'm not even taking time to even think about who you are or what you like. And like, so giving a non-specific bullshit gift to somebody whose gift love language is receiving gifts, it's kind of like saying like, I don't care about you to
Mhm.
them. So yeah, big one to watch out for those people. And then actions on physical touch. So like obviously there's a little ones like for me as a physical touch numero uno thing, like if we're in say a movie and you never touch me during the entire movie when we're sitting right next to each other, like it's like okay, are you just feeling completely disconnected from me? Like, have we lost our bond here?
So,
Like,
yeah,
what's going on? Like to me, it's just,
yeah.
or if I'm the one who's like always only touching, and it's like there's not even like a simple gesture back of like returning that feels
It's
shitty to me.
projection.
It feels like okay, apparently I like you more than you like me. So then I'm like, never mind. Like that little stuff is like return. If a touchy person touches you, like give them a little like touch back, like show them that you like it or that you've received it. And
Yeah.
then also like, yeah, let's talk about sex and intimacy. Now I will admit I wasn't always like a like lover of sex, because when I was unhappy in my marriage, like I didn't want to. I just did
Yeah.
not want to.
You lost everyone at some point lose respect for the person they're about to divorce, and you're not attracted.
Yeah.
You don't,
Right.
and not to say your ex is not someone you don't respect now. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we have a great relationship. It's just, when it is obviously a manifestation of intimacy. So when the intimacy is being broken, like it's not going to be there. So I understand. And I'm not just talking in the pre-divorce period either. Like that was happening quite often, like all along, to be honest. And I just thought I didn't have a sex drive or that I didn't like sex, but I can see now that there was a lack of intimacy there. So because I've experienced that, and now I realize I actually really like, this is like my numero uno love language. And I actually like, since I'm just being real, I like sex a whole lot of bunch. Like I realize like if someone isn't wanting that with me, like to me, it just symbolizes that we have a lack of intimacy there. I'm like, the fact that your desire isn't there, if that's the case in a dating relationship, like I'm just like, ugh, like this is probably not going to work out, because like I want the kind of relationship where we can't wait to get at each other. Like that is, to me, that's like, it's just a physical expression of a underlying energy. And then
Mhm.
again, like inside in sex, like what's the energy there? Like to me that says freaking everything. Like if it's not like connected and like free and exploratory and like just like light and innocent and fun and like all of that, like if it's stressful and like to the point, like, like just get it done,
Wham, bam,
check.
you're thinking,
Like,
ma'am. Yep.
yeah, it's like, I mean, that's okay sometimes too.
Hey,
Like,
yeah, no one's gonna turn
it,
down a quickie. Yeah, sure.
yeah, I mean, that it's just, but some variety, you know what I mean? But it doesn't even matter. It's the energy. What is the energy present there? Like, you cannot fake that shit. Like, if sex has become like mechanical and it's just like, okay, yeah, like, let's just get this done because we both have needs, like, goodbye, relationship, goodbye. Like, to me, it says like
You might as well just basically have a human masturbating for you. You might as well just be by yourself. Yeah. But I'm sure
yeah.
there's been those kind of things that are dead. And
So yeah, if
this is
physical
like the
touch,
most important love language. This should be the sixth love language, really, because this spans all of them for every person, every relationship. If there is you could have the same love languages, but if there's a mismatch with the sex or the
yeah,
sex
it
interest, and I think I've talked about this before. I kind of have this conversation with people sometimes about this because it has been a thing where I have a really high sex drive and I want someone who does too.
yeah,
And the other thing too is I want someone who at a certain age, people will lose their sex. Maybe for a guy it's 60, maybe for a woman it's 50, they go through some changes, whatever. It's all fixable. But my thing is that it's so important to me that if I ever were to lose it, you better believe I'd be at the anti-aging doctors figuring out how to get it back because that's how important it is. I wouldn't just give up. A lot of women give up. They just go, I don't feel like it anymore. That to me is fucked. Also, I love Tom Bilyeu.
something is wrong. Something is
Yeah,
wrong. I'm just
could be
letting you
wrong.
know.
Or maybe you're not interested and that's okay. Find someone else who doesn't care either. So I want someone who cares about it so much that if their testosterone starts to drop, they start to notice at some point in our relationship or
Yeah.
life that it's not working out, that they're like, oh no, this isn't right. I need to go figure this out because
No,
it's that important to me. That's what I want in my partner.
I have to say I disagree. It's not okay. It's not okay. Like if you don't have a sex drive, it's not okay. Like there's something wrong either on the
Oh no,
the
yeah, no, I'm with you on
mental,
that, like
emotional
health
level
wise.
or
Yeah.
physical level. Like who was I
That's
talking to? Oh my gosh, why am I not recalling her name right now? She's like a sex and skin doctor. Oh my gosh, she's like one of my friends here in Utah. I forgot her name, but anyway, she what's wrong wrong with me? Amy Killen, Dr. Amy Killen, she's like skin and sex doctor. And she talks about that. She's like, as women age, like she has talks with them in her clinic. Like if they're coming in for an O shot or something, she's like, wait a minute, like what's actually going on with you that you're not able to orgasm? Like, how is your relationship? Like, how is your health? Like, so I don't know. I guess I'm like judging everybody else off my own standard, but I know that when I didn't have a sex drive, something was wrong. I was very unhappy and kind of in denial about it. I
Yes.
thought my relationship was fine. It was normal. I had a normal, it wasn't fine. Like I was like upset about all sorts of things that was making me not attracted to him. So it was not because like I had a problem. Like
Yeah,
I
you didn't have
didn't
a
have a sex
physiological
drive.
problem. It
I
wasn't
didn't have a
spark
right.
being fostered. Yeah.
Exactly. I had an emotional disconnection. And so, yeah, that was like an issue for us because he's like, why don't you want to have sex? I'm like, I don't know. I guess something's wrong with me. It's like, no, actually, Tara, I guess something is wrong with you because you're not communicating about how it frustrates you. All these things you're not communicating about. So all I'm saying is like, if you don't have a sex drive, you're probably lying to yourself somewhere. You're probably thinking you're fine and you're not. And I would take a real hard look at that because like, I feel like a different person. Like it has literally increased like my vibrance and my vitality and like my youthfulness and like my fun and freedom and like just like owning my own sensuality and all of that. Like I was completely like disconnected from that in all of my 20s when you would think that would be a lot higher. It was just like, no, I just don't like sex, Oh my gosh. Not to mention I had childhood sexual trauma I hadn't dealt
that
with
you
ever.
didn't voice with your ex, which you've mentioned before, which I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Give it a shot.
So,
but yeah, you're right. If you don't have it, it's either you got a biological issue, right? Like hypothyroid, something screwed up with your hormones.
Right.
Literally, you are not with the right person because that's all that it took you to find out. You probably had to do some of that work about the molestation stuff, but you got out of it and then you go, oh my God, this wasn't him. Or this wasn't me. This was just the situation.
Right. Well, yeah. And also like, yeah, there were issues in the marriage that was caused me to have a lack of respect for him. And
no
when
one is attracted to anyone when they have a
when you're like, don't respect someone and you're not thinking highly of them, you're not going to want to have sex with them, So like, but what the real problem was, is I wasn't communicating about any of that. I was just sitting there like thinking it and not, which is a disservice to him. He doesn't know, you know what I mean? So anyway, like, I guess I invite you, like, if physical touch isn't your jam, I guess as a physical touch person, I'm inviting you to take a look at why it isn't and start talking, start communicating, especially if it's scary. Like, I did not talk about sex enough with my ex-husband. Now, like in my relationships now, I'm very, very, like, we talk about everything. I talk about what I like. What do you like? Like this, it's very like, it's free and light and it's okay. I'm not like complaining. I think before I used to think like, it was like, you're not doing a good enough job. Let me tell you how to do it. I thought it was that, you know what I mean? Which made me not want to communicate. But now I'm like, no, it's not like that. It's just like, this is just basic communication of letting you know, like, I like that. I like this, So anyway.
Again, it's like with the other love languages or with the holidays and birthdays. It's like, before we get into a fucking problem,
right.
Let me just tell you what I want and need. You know what I mean? What I like.
Amen.
And by the way, there are, and on a sexual note too, like there are people that have some sort of, some guys have an actual issue, right?
Yeah.
And okay, for example, like I can't date a guy with that issue. No offense to him. There might be someone who doesn't like to have sex as often or doesn't mind the planning and what goes on with that. That's okay. But again, this stuff has to get right. What I love about Tom and Lisa Bilyeu, if you guys don't know them, like the billionaire starters of Quest Nutrition, and they both have their own shows. They talk about it all the time when they talk about the relationship, is that at age 22, Tom was like, I will not be in a sexless marriage. Like that was his number one, like, no fucking way. And I was like, that's exactly how I feel. Like,
totally.
Right. And you know what? So it's also too, it's like, this is the deal you make with someone when you're married, right? Because you don't have sex with your friends, or, if you're in a serious relationship, you don't have to be married to have sex, obviously. And I just feel like if you're not, again, it's like we were talking about in the Friends episode. If you're not willing to put out and that person is really, really, really like a sexual person, you're not the right match for them.
Yeah.
This is going to be a disappointing ending there. I've dated people that had mismatched sexual energies or ideas of how much or whatever they wanted. And this is the way I'm never going to be in a sexless marriage either, because this is the way I look at it. It's like, even if someone had an accident and their dick blew off, let's say, okay, God forbid, right? Hey, there are lots of other ways. Like someone, I'm gonna just be gross. Like someone doesn't have 5 minutes and 2 fingers. I mean, like really, guys, it's really not difficult to please your partner. This used to be called marital duty for a reason. And while we don't have to be married, this is a part of keeping intimacy up. And it's like 80% of the success of like romantic relationships. So if something's wrong with you or not feeling sexual, go get that worked out, because it might be something you're missing in life that you're going to love and didn't realize, or maybe you just realize something about yourself and you need to find someone with kind of that same energy sexually.
The other thing I'll add is if your partner doesn't want to have sex with you, why? Maybe it's not their problem. Maybe it's fucking you. Maybe you are being a dick to them all the time and they just don't want to. So like, I hear this, honestly, like I'm being real, like being in a gym a lot, I get hit on sometimes by men. And one of the most disgusting things that like I cannot stand is when a married man will start talking to me and complaining about his wife. Like I want to freaking grab him by the top of his t-shirt and just like punch him in the face. I'm like, I know your MO. I know you're a cheater. I'm on your wife's side and you're an asshole. But anyway, what sometimes I kid you not, like they'll just be straight up like, I haven't had sex in 3 years. It's this freaking sob story that like
it's a baiting. Oh no, that's so wrong. Your wife sucks.
You poor thing. Oh yeah. It's just like, it's like cheater 101, and that makes me so disgusted because I'm like, I wonder why she doesn't want to have sex with you when you're like flirting with women at the gym. Like I can only imagine what a queen you treat her like at home. Right. And so it's like, no fucking wonder she doesn't want to have sex with you. Like you're disrespecting her in this very moment right now. So I can only imagine what your energy is towards her. And when a woman doesn't feel like seen and validated and loved and like a queen, she ain't gonna want to have sex with you. In a story, it's emotional for women. So anyway, I guess that's probably all we have like mostly female listeners, but I know we got some men out there too. But women too, like if you're being
it goes both ways, man. Guys don't know that energy. Don't marry a chick. Look, I mean,
if you're being rude and like belittling him and like freaking cutting off his balls and like treating him like a child, he's not gonna want to have sex with you either. So that's an invitation too. If your partner doesn't want to have sex with you, you might want to take a look at yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So 5, the number, lovelanguages.com is where you can just quickly, boom, take the free quiz. You don't need to sign up with emails or anything to find out what your top 3 love languages are. It'll be like number 1, 2, 3. And then again, if you're newly with someone, you can just be like, hey, you know what? It sounds like hippy dippy or whatever, but you mind getting on this? Because this is, just explain it to them. I mean, who cares? And they could just be like, all right, whatever. And then they get back to you. It's great intel.
Totally.
Move forward. And then at least you're moving forward, really knowing how this person operates. And if it doesn't work out and those love languages are in conflict, well, at least you knew from the beginning, to have it be a real honest start with like all the information you needed.
Yeah, I'd say in the dating world that I'm in, like it's a standard. It's like in the text before you've even met in person. What are your love languages?
People actually put it on the app. You're right.
Yeah. So if you haven't done that in like your committed relationship, oh my gosh, what a fun thing to do together. So, and also just an invitation also to think about this not only in your romantic relationships, but with your children and your family members and your friends, right? And even your parents, our poor parents, we expect everything of them, but like, what are their love languages? Like, don't be a jerk. Like, give them some love too. So, I think this is such a useful thing to use in all of our relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, guys, for listening.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.